Welcome back to another book review of mine. We are reviewing Fire with Fire by Jenny Han, and the other author who I can't pronounce. So there'll be a picture in the video, so you can kind of see the author's names if you need them. This is book two of three. So the first book was Burn for Burn, book two is Fire with Fire, and book three is Ashes to Ashes. But we are focusing on book number two today. Now, I do kind of like this series. I read it when I was a teenager. I'm now 28. I read it when I was a teenager. And I did enjoy it back when I was a teenager, so I thought I would do a reread and then see how I felt about whether I kept them or not. I do have physical copies of all of them. Um, I will just say that with the first book, it wasn't as padded it took with the second book. It took ages to get to the plot, and there was a lot of unnecessary like padding and stuff. And in the second book, there wasn't much drama and stuff. But the second book is 517 pages long, so that's a lot of pages to get through. Excuse me. So, as always, I will read the blurb. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, burn for a burn. Now, I may be pronouncing this girl's name wrong, but I'm just going to say it how I think, and if I've got it wrong, I'm so sorry. Lilia, Kat, and Mary had the perfect plan to take down the people who had wronged them and to leave no trace of their involvement, but everything blew up in their faces at the homecoming dance. Now Lilia and Kat are starting to second guess their plotting, but Mary insists that she finally gets her revenge she deserves. Destroy Reeve like you destroyed her. Again, I'm sorry if I've got the name wrong. But as more secrets threaten to reveal themselves, the girls, the pack, become harder to maintain. Emotions are spiraling out of control and there's too much at stake. Because once a fire is lit, sometimes the only thing you can do is let it burn. So I think Mary's my favourite kind of character because she has way more going. She has a really, really bad backstory, but I will just say that before I go further in with this book haul, there are trigger warnings that I feel that should be in place, and the trigger warnings are suicide, rape, cancer, and bullying, along with alcohol and drugs. So if any of those are that you find upsetting or anything, please click off this video now. Um, but yeah, anyway, that's your warning for that. And as I say, 500 pages. We focus mainly on three characters, three girls, Mary, Lilia, and Kat. They Mary has the saddest backstory along with Kat. So Kat's backstory is basically her mum got sick with cancer and ended up passing away. And unfortunately, I can relate to Kat a lot because I've been there with my mum. I've kind of done that. Mary's backstory is where she was heavily overweight and she got bullied for her weight, and Bree was the arse who bullied her so much to the point where he pushed her off the ferry or the boat, and that night Mary went and took herself and ended her own life. And Lilia is she's got stable parents, she's got money, she kind of gets everything she wants, so I can't really relate to Lilia. Um, she kind of annoys me a little bit just because she doesn't really have anything in common. Um, but the thing that I like about this story is when I was reading it when I was a teenager, it took me absolute ages to realize that Mary is actually a ghost with unfinished business. Um, and then in the second book, it basically points to it, but it took me until I got to book three. Um, but yeah, so Mary Mary really liked Reeve because Reeve is like the hot teenage boy who all the girls fancy him, minus Kat, because Kat's kind of cool and she reminds me a bit like Chloe out of Life is Strange with that attitude. But Mary admits she loves Reeve, and even though he hurt her badly, she wants it to end and to let go, but she can't because Reeve is keeping her here. So this is kind of where we got the subtle hints of Mary kind of being a ghost and that she wants to leave Jar Island, but she can't because obviously she's being kept here for unfinished business. And then Kat reveals to Mary that she lost her mum to cancer and that Mary being miserable isn't going to change what they did at homecoming. Mary heads back home after watching the football game to find Aunt Betty, and I'm sorry if I've got that wrong, on the floor making ancient herbs which affect Mary as she heads upstairs. So going into more detail with this, that obviously we find out more about Kat's backstory and the fact that she lost her mum to cancer and that there's always this teacher at their school trying to push Kat to write about her experience with her mum, which can be very difficult. So yeah. And Aunt Betty knows that Mary has passed away at this point and that obviously Mary's back in a ghost and she can do all this weird like shaking the house and kind of has these weird kind of powers and stuff. But obviously Mary at this point didn't know she was a ghost and she just thinks that her aunt is being super weird and needs to get out of the house more and that her aunt needs to be painting what she used to be painting. Kat has a friend called Kim who runs this bar, but also Kim was sleeping with the bar manager as well, which eventually leads to Kim being kicked out, but Kat could go to the bar and talk to Kim about anything as they were friends. Now, the really weirdest thing is Kim is mentioned in book one, and then we get to book two. And after Kim's been thrown out of that place and Kat tries to phone Kim and find out where she went, we never hear about, if I remember correctly, we never hear about Kim's character again, especially in this book. So we kind of have a few chapters of this, and then it's just like Kim's just completely gone. And it's just really weird because we don't even know like where she's gone, if she's okay, and stuff like that. Lilia and Rennie have become frenemies. Um, so Lilia and Rennie are not getting along, and Ashlyn invites them both over at her house to try and get Lilia and Rennie to make up. Rennie believes that Lilia kissed Reeve at homecoming, but Reeve kissed Lilia first and made it difficult for Lilia to stop the kiss. So this is kind of going on from book one. But basically, Rennie's super pissed because she completely loves Reeve and she thinks that her and Reeve should be together and not Lilia and Reeve. And Ashlyn is trying her hardest to get them two to make up, but obviously they don't. Every year at Halloween, due to there being empty houses from the holiday makers, the Jar Island holds an annual Halloween Fall Fest at the elementary school. As Lilia is a senior this year, she helps with the preparing activities for the children, with Rennie turning people against her, and Alex and Nadia are the only two to offer help to help Lilia prepare the sweets for the Fall Fest. So every year they have the Fall Fest where they then set up like stores and fates kind of things and trick or treatings. Due to Jar Island being more of a holiday home than people living there, year in and year out. But Alex and Nadia were the only two to help her do that. Mary and Kat go to the maze and Mary loses Kat and ends up trying to find her. Mary hears Lilia but doesn't know which direction to head in. While trying to find Kat, Mary ends up bumping into Reeve, where Reeve is not happy to see Mary and won't apologise for bullying her about her weight. This makes Mary very angry after being Sweared at by Reeve, Mary runs away from Kat and Lilia. But Kat and Lilia heard everything after being on the other side of the wall maze. And basically, Reeve is kind of responsible. He knows he's responsible for Mary's death and that his bullying and the fact that he pushed her over the edge of the boat, and she had to have people help her get out of the water, was the last straw. And he's just buried that to the back of his mind, and he doesn't really want to accept responsibility and stuff. But obviously, with Mary being a ghost, he sees her, and that kind of, shits him up a bit. Kat and Lilia stop by Mary's house the next day. They find Mary in the garage tending to her bike. Mary talks about the night before, how when Lilia talked and shouted at Reeve, he cried. The girls realise that Reeve has a crush on Lilia. They agree that Lilia will date Reeve to get back at Rennie and for Mary to get back at Reeve, because Reeve gets everything he wants, and the one thing he can't have is Lilia. That turns completely and utterly in their face, because Lilia and Reeve do actually fall in love, and they actually want to be a couple, so that kind of backfires. The interesting thing about this is how we get to page 400 and I think it's, bear with me, 496, where Mary basically realizes she's a ghost, and it's like she's been riding her bike around Jar Island. She's been, like, her room wasn't in, cloths and stuff like that, and the house kind of looked to her how it looked to her before she passed. Sorry, I'm trying to find my part. So that kind of doesn't make sense to me. So I'm a bit like, well, how do people see her and see that she's riding a bike and stuff, and how did she see all this? Kat reveals more of her mum's last few months after being diagnosed with terminal cancer. Rennie, I've got Ronnie in there, but it should be Rennie. Rennie was a crap friend to Kat while Kat was caring for her mum. Pat and Kat's dad went away so Pat could race. So in this scene, Pat, which is Kat's brother, was did a lot of racing, and every year they would go and kind of do these race things. But as Kat's mum's got terminal, she had to kind of do a lot of the looking after and stuff like that, which obviously restricted Kat a bit. Reeve and Lilia are at an event, and Reeve finally tells Lilia that he really liked her, and Reeve ends up kissing Lilia. So this is where they started to establish feelings for one another. Rennie turns up on Kat's doorstep, especially after Kat said not to come round after Rennie deemed to see Kat. Rennie has to see Kat to apologise for being a rubbish friend when Kat's mum was sick. Rennie also invites Kat to her New Year's Eve's party, which Kat realises that she will go see the drama unfold for herself. So that was the plan that the three girls had made together for Rennie's New Year's Eve party. But Rennie being Rennie always gets what she wants, and Rennie is kind of like that super kind of outstanding, mouthy kind of girl. Lilia holds a party at her house after her sister and her mother goes to visit their dad off the island. Reeve helps by bringing beer and pizzas. After Alex confronted Reeve and tried to hand him money for the pizzas, that Lilia forgot to text Alex that Reeve was paying for and picking up the pizzas. Alex leaves the party, and Rennie is pretending to be drunk to get Reeve to drive her back home, which works. Lilia is then left on her own to clean and wait for Reeve to come back. But Rennie gets her way, and Reeve doesn't go back to Lilia's house. Lilia invites Kat and Mary over for a sleepover where they talk about Lilia ending it with Reeve. Reeve ends up going round to Lilia's house, and Kat and Mary are hiding so they can both listen to Lilia. Break up with Reeve. But Lilia has real feelings for Reeve and can't be honest because Kat and Mary are there. Lilia goes to Reeve's house to apologise with flowers, but she finds that Rennie is there and won't let her apologise. So yeah, Rennie was basically a super ass bee and didn't tell Reeve that Lilia was outside with flowers to apologise, even though that Reeve later admits to the book that he was really depressed and that he wanted to see Lilia, but obviously with Rennie being Rennie, she didn't tell him. Mary's mum visits Aunt Betty and takes Aunt Betty away to get better after being stuck in the house for so long. Mary thinks that her mum will take her, but leaves her behind. Mary is in distress and Mary's make things shake in the house. This is when Mary's mum just randomly turns up and takes her sister, Aunt Betty, away from the house in order to get better. Gonna have a sippy sip. Kat leaves with Rennie to go back and get the pictures of Lilia, Spike, and Reeve's drink. Mary goes to the ferry to find her mum, only to find that they have both left. Rennie asks Mary if she's okay and invites Mary into her car. Mary starts having flashbacks of the night she died. Once Mary realizes that she is dead, she kills Rennie in her car. Mary wakes in the graveyard to find her grave, but also that her dad had passed too a year before. Well, a year after Mary passed. This devastates Mary. The news slowly gets around about Rennie's car accident. And that's kind of basically the in-depth of book 2. As I say, I did kind of enjoy it, but it took so long just to get to some sort of drama in there, and there wasn't really much drama in there. But if you want something that's kind of short chapters, fast paced, then I do recommend this book. For that reason. But yeah, I haven't really done many of these book reviews, but well, I've done like 31, 32 now, I think. But yeah, so that's basically it. This is a YA kind of um fiction. I'm not sure whether to class it as a thriller or what, but as I say, it is enjoyable. It's a book about getting revenge on people who hurt you and stuff. So if you're kind of into that kind of stuff, then this book is definitely for you. And thank you for watching.